Well, howdy folks. Stan the Human here, aka Stanley LeCarpentier, for the PTSD Fund. Now this is National PTSD Awareness Month, June, every year, and June 27th is National PTSD Awareness Day. And that is what concerns us right now. We lose 22 veterans every single day to what I call suicide by PTSD, while having a science, not an if, a science that wipes out PTSD. Now, I'm sure you can imagine that, but neither the VA nor Big Pharma love that this doesn't make them any money. And so they don't do anything to tell anybody about it. And they squash it at every opportunity. And so for years, there have been some of the most famous people in the United States, in the world, have been talking about the science of tapping, and yet it's been primarily ignored by the general public. There are people who are experts in psychiatry and psychology that have literally never heard of it. And I'm going to tell you why. When this started, Dr. Callahan discovered tapping. He had a 25-year patient that he cured in 7 days. Over the next 30 days, he literally cured every one of his patients in his practice, and so did not have a regular ongoing practice. At that time, the American Psychiatric Association saw this and got really scared for their profession. And they sued Dr. Callahan over the use of the word cure. Well, Dr. Callahan won. This is literally the only thing in U.S. psychiatric history legally allowed to use the word cure. It was then studied at the University of Florida and declared a science. Again, this is not an if. This is a science. Our losing not just veterans, but all sorts of good citizens to suicide by PTSD is not necessary. So today, I'm going to teach you what was developed at University of Florida and called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. The original tapping was called thought field therapy because you're bringing the thought up into the thought field one last time, and then you're dissipating it and it's gone. Now, I've been using this for years to help veterans do what we call come all the way home. There are lots of special forces soldiers in particular who will not sleep in their own homes. They're scared of waking up in the middle of a nightmare and their automatic reactions taking over, their training taking over, and them killing their families or hurting their loved ones before they realize that it's just a nightmare. This happened a lot after Vietnam, and so the fear continues. And in my time with this material, after it helped me, I went out and I started finding these guys in the alleys, in the woods, heck, just right across the counter from me sometimes. And we would get to them, we'd teach them tapping and the ancient martial art of Qigong, and we would watch these guys go all the way home, knock on their own doors, return to their families. Now, if you are having trouble, you always have 911, you always have the Veterans Helpline and other emergency lines. But I want you to first be able to stop the trauma. And so the very first thing that is part of this EFT routine is tapping on your karate chop points. If you will hit one hand, a second hand, a third hand, you will feel a shift in your energy. We call this the reverse point. You get your polarity right. We have ADHD kids, autistic kids, some of whom used to hit their parents because one of the things about the brain that people who've never had brain injuries or suffered through autism don't know. And that is, when you're trying to get that thought through those synaptic patterns and it doesn't want to go, it hurts. Your brain hurts in a way that I cannot describe to you. And so this is why autistic kids and some ADHD kids and people with trauma go off. This one kid, we taught him this move right here alone, and he no longer hits his mother in response to that aggravation. He does that. So today I'm going to teach you that whole routine. And when we're done, if you will master this, not only can you save your own life, you can save the lives of the people around you. It doesn't have to be a veteran. It could be the kid down the street who lost his parent. It could be anybody in our society who's gone through COVID. You know, this has just been stupid. Our basic realities have been questioned. And I'm telling you, we got that traditional 22 veteran a day suicide number down into the teens before Afghanistan, the withdrawal in Afghanistan, and now we're higher. Okay? Please embrace this science for yourself, for your community, for your country. It doesn't just have to be a family member. Okay? Please, I beg of you, learn this simple routine. All right, here's the routine. It's called EFT, or Emotional Freedom Technique. So what is happening here is we are now able to measure quantum flow. And where our veins and our nerves and our lymph lines are, we have proven there are also now, we see with these instruments, invisible lines where crystalline energy flows. Okay? It's really funny. We map the body, and guess where these chi lines are? Exactly where the Chinese have told us for 5,000 years. So this is real. And what's happening is like when Christ talks about the burden of your sins. Physics has taught us that trauma is literally energy particles stuck on the body. It is a weight, just like Christ was telling us. Okay? So what we're doing here is we're hitting meridian points on this chi grid where energy gets stuck. And if we do it in the right sequence for your particular problem, all of that stuck energy will flush. We don't call this PTSD getting better. We call it PTSD removal. You may have to tap more than once, and you may have multiple traumas that you need to get rid of. But when you release the stuck energy, it's gone. It cannot affect you anymore. It just can't. It's physically impossible for something that is not there to affect you. And that's what this does. It gets rid of that stuck energy. And the earth can take it. One of the things that we recommend to people who are in particularly bad situations is the science of grounding, where we're asking you to do your tapping in bare feet on the earth or sitting on the earth, because the electromagnetic field of the earth is enough to absorb any of your heavy energy. Okay? Now, EFT. The tapping points that I'm talking about are the reverse point, the eyebrow. Now, to find the eyebrow point, take these three fingers, put this one in the middle, and it's where these two are hitting. Okay? That's your eyebrow. Now, the side of eye, there's a bone between your temple and your eye socket, and we're hitting that. That's why I turn my hand like this, okay, because it's in here. Now, the next spot is under the eyes, really the top of the cheekbone at the eye socket, not in the socket, but at the very top of it. The next one is the nose, and you're going to hit right in there between your upper lip and your nose. Similarly, the chin is the same thing. You're in that little cleft there. between the lip and the chin. Now the next spot is your collarbone spot. So you find the ball of the collarbone and you go out and down an inch. Feel that meaty area? That's what we're talking about right there, okay? Now, the next spot is the bra line. I call this the man spot because this is where men hold most of their stuff. And so I find like the lymph node and just bang the hell out of it or nab it, okay? And then from there, you're going to go to the top of your head, or what I call the baby spot, okay? And then for the next part of it, you don't go back to the reverse points. So you skip over the crotch chop and go back to eyebrow, side of eye, under eye, nose, chin, collarbone, bra line, top of the head. Okay, so that is the sequence, okay? That's the tapping sequence. Now, how we do this routine is this, okay? Remember I said that thought field therapy is you bring the thought back into the thought field one last time so you can get rid of it, okay? That means you have to face this trauma at least one more time, okay? So what we do is, there are 6 words: love, honor, respect, appreciate, forgive, and accept. We're going to use 2 words on each of the 3 setup statements. The setup statements are done while we hit the reverse point. And these reverse statements, or these setup statements, while you're hitting the reverse point, what you're basically saying is, this problem, blah, 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 is bad, but I love and respect myself. I can't stand it when such and such happens, but I forgive and appreciate myself, okay? This sort of a thing, where you're identifying the problem. And guys, this is not the time to be polite. If you want to cuss, you do whatever you need to do to get that energy up and out when you're describing the issue. And then tell yourself that you forgive and accept yourself, that you love and respect yourself, that you honor and appreciate yourself. So what you're saying is, here's the problem, here's the end result. Okay? Now, so what we're going to do is let's pick a problem. Oh my God, my sister just fell through the porch and hurt herself. This is a real life thing happening within our audience right now, okay? But I love and respect myself. I can't stand it when my sister goes off and does these things on her own when I'm not there to make sure she's okay or to help her. But I forgive and accept myself. I love my sister more than anything. And sometimes, just like me, she's a pain. But I honor and respect myself. Okay, now we're going to the eyebrow. And we're going to keep describing this problem. And again, we're not going to mince words. We're going to get it up and out, all of it. So we're like, oh, I can't stand it when such and such happens, you know, when I'm at work, and you just keep moving through the points while you're doing this. All those people at work, they're always talking junk. They're so hateful and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I'm always working overtime because they're always calling in. And I'm just so sick and tired of my job. And I can't get away from it. I have to keep doing it. But you know what? I'm letting it go. I'm releasing all this aggravation. I'm going to be able to go to work and just be relaxed and be me and not have all of everybody else's problems become my problems. Because I can't stand it when George comes in the morning and he's got his coffee and he's all, you know, like, morning, I hate the morning. I want to hear positive, happy things when I get to work. And so I'm just going to let this stuff not affect me anymore, and I'm going to talk to myself in a way that's positive. And before George can even say anything, I'm going to say, "Oh my God, isn't it a wonderful day, George? What are you feeling lucky about?" Etc. All right, so you only need to do 2 or 3 of these cycles after you do the karate chop point. But you need to get it up, whatever it is, and get it out. Okay, again, I'm just giving you a couple examples. You know, somebody you care about, making situations from not being responsible enough in your mind to things happening at work to what Special Forces soldiers go through, what Navy medics go through. They have serious traumatic visions and nightmares going on. And they face it in the same simple way that we just did. Now, if you do a tapping routine on something, you want to look at how bad it is to start with and how bad it is when you're done tapping it out. Let's say you don't get it all out. Tap again. If you're still not able to get this problem out of you with this EFT routine, if you have what are called compound perturbations in your thought field, then it's just simply a matter of finding the right sequence of tapping points. And so what we do is, we call it Mrs. Callahan at thoughtfieldtherapy.com. She measures the thought perturbations in your voice field, gives you a sequence you couldn't have guessed in a million years, and you get rid of your problem. See, it's one of the things about this is tapping doesn't cost you any money. Once you learn how to do it, I mean, you can do it with professionals. There are lots of therapists out there who do it as part of their therapy. But I'm going to tell you, this is probably the most effective part, is the tapping. But again, it doesn't cost you any money to learn it. It doesn't cost you any money to teach it. So practice it. Now, before you even get into these, these routines, there's some points on the body that I want you to be able to use right away if you're in a traumatic sort of a situation. On the top of your chest here, above your heart, on the left side, okay, is an area, if you feel around, that is more sore, more hard than the other parts. If you will take your 3 fingers and rub that. That was an involuntary breath, okay? It's really relax you. When I was having a heart attack in a blizzard, I had a wood stove, tapping, and qigong. That's it. I gave myself a bruise right here, relaxing myself. Now, the other thing is, let's say you're in a job interview, you're in some sit-down situation that's stressful, and you can't just be tapping, in front of people. What you do is, on your kneecap, you rub the front of your kneecaps, especially, but the whole kneecap, but especially this front part, and you will feel that relief come up your back and over the top of your head. And again, you'll probably have an involuntary breath. Okay, these 2 things can stop you in an acute situation where you can't really sit down and have a tapping session for yourself. So those 3 things, the karate chop point, the kneecap, and this spot here on your chest, utilize those at any time immediately, but then review and learn this EFT routine. And we call it a cure-all, even though obviously it doesn't cure everything, but it in general will be all you need for most of your trauma. Now, one of the cool things about this is if you pull on one trauma, usually it is a repetition through your life. And there's a whole bunch of other related traumas and incidents that are related to it. And when you pull this out, they all come out. I've seen a 60-year-old trauma come off a 65-year-old man, and I saw him stand up, and Stuart had the biggest smile I've ever seen on his face. This guy had a physical manifestation of his trauma. He was always going around going, it was so bad you couldn't be around him, and he was clearing a sinus here. What we discovered in this tapping session, when this 60-year-old trauma came off of him, is that was because someone he loved and respected had grabbed him around the neck when he was 5 years old, picked him up, and screamed in his face. It's where his thumb was. Ever since then, that sinus has been a pain to Stuart. And the weirdest thing is when Stuart did this work and that trauma left him, he stopped hacking immediately. I used to hear it 6-7 times a day, loudly, when I was working with him out on his property. I started hearing it, like just a couple things of it every now and then, every few days. But essentially, it was gone, it was wiped out. And if he started hacking, all he had to do was start tapping. And it would go away. This is powerful stuff. This is a science. This is not an if. I have never seen tapping not work on a soldier who did the work, and soldiers almost always do the work. If you're a soldier and you're listening to this, do the work. We love you. We do not want you to go away. We do not want you to commit suicide. We want you to come to us. We want you to come to this science. We want you to live the life that you love. And it is there. It is available to you. And it's on the other side of this little piece of knowledge that if you will learn, God will come to your rescue. Who do you think designed this way? God. I'm Stanley LeCarpentier for the PTSD Fund. Today is the beginning of our charity year. After 3 years of doing this charitable effort, we're becoming a 501c this month. So thank you for your love and support. Thank you for coming to our monthly trek-a-thons. And those of you who send in $22 a month, know that every $22 pays for a veteran to have a free life-saving session.